Well, the climate deniers are moving forward and making progress. It's time we take them on. We're going to talk about that later in the program today. Also, Des Moines' most famous pregnant woman, Nikisha Phillips, again with us, as she always is on Thursdays. And also State Representative Dan Kelly with an inside look at the Iowa State House. But first, we're going to talk with Peter Clay about the threat facing African elephants. This is a serious problem, and we've got a lot of conversation to have to sort it out. We'll be back in a minute to kick it off here on the Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community.
This moment of silence brought to you by Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering, home of Des Moines' premier rooftop dining experience. Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
On March 28th, Equal Justice After Hours is Iowa Legal Aid's annual fundraiser that helps provide access to justice for low-income Iowans. The event includes a reception and program at the Temple for the Performing Arts in Des Moines. It also includes remarks by Georgetown University law professor Peter Edelman and the induction of Robert Oberbillig into the Iowa Legal Aid Hall of Fame. Tickets start at $50 and sponsorship opportunities are available. Contact Terry Bennett at tbennett@iowalaw.org. That's tbennett@iowalaw.org.
Ludwig van Beethoven here. I used to be so tired all the time, not from composing and playing, but from moving my piano. But now I feel so much better. I call S&P Piano, and they will bring my piano anywhere. They also sell and rent pianos, used ones, new ones. You get the idea.
Call S&P Piano right away at 208-6453. That's 208-6453.
S&P Piano.
Times are tough, and most people are just trying to make their cars last a little bit longer. That's why you should know about Sargent's Garage in Des Moines. You can trust Sargent's to make the right diagnosis and give you a fair price. Whether it's a routine oil change or a major repair, Sargent's always does outstanding work. So don't give up on that old car just yet. Call Sargent's Garage at 246-8149. That's 246-8149 for Sargent's Garage.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Elephant, 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 elephant.
She's big and friendly.
Elephant.
Wrinkled and gray.
Elephant.
And with a great big beat, better get out of the way of the elephant.
Okay, so I spared you the graphic that goes along with it. It's a Barney tune, folks. Maybe you're a big Barney fan, but I'm among those who believe that the one dinosaur that did not go extinct, Barney, should have. Anyway, we're talking about elephants here today, among other things. We're talking about wildlife that is threatened with extinction or with a lot of pressure from human habitation. But this conversation kicks off with the excellent letter to the editor that Peter Clay wrote. Actually, it was a letter to President Obama, which appeared in the Register, I believe it might have been Sunday. There was an excellent photo that helped capture the glory and majesty of the elephant. And there was some accompanying dialogue that made it really clear that this is a serious problem, that the threat that elephants now face from poaching, and a lot of that with for ivory, of course, that's being sold to China, is a major problem. And we could be looking at the extinction of African forest elephants in the near future. Peter, thank you so much for sounding the alarm on this. I was not aware that this was such a problem. Thank you, and welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Ed. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
And you're no stranger to wildlife. You've done a lot of work with critters in the past and have spent quite a bit of time in Africa, in fact.
Yeah, that's true. I've spent most of my time working on behalf of great apes, gorillas, and chimpanzees, but I actually encountered forest elephants during some work I did in Congo, and I'll never forget those experiences, certainly.
Now, when you say forest elephants, are we talking about elephants that live in the wild? What about those that live on preserves?
Well, the distinction between forest and savanna elephants is basically that scientists who study elephants are clear that forest elephants are taxonomically and functionally unique. They're different than savanna elephants who live in East and Southern Africa.
Oh, okay. So this is again, these are forest elephants could also be put onto preserves. I mean, maybe some of them exist on preserves,
no. Basically, you're talking about preserves. You mean like
wildlife ranges,
game parks or national parks? Well, I mean, forest elephants do exist within national parks in West and Central Africa, but I'm not sure if you're referring to the idea of more or less confining them in small areas where they could be protected and could reproduce or something.
Well, not quite. Yeah,
basically captive.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess I was assuming that the poaching problem might be more prevalent in areas where elephants are running completely wild, but now I'm guessing what I'm discerning is that maybe it's also a problem on preserves as well.
Well, I guess it depends what you mean by wild. The wild these days is sort of an esoteric concept almost. Basically, the savanna environments in East and Southern Africa have significant populations of the savanna elephants, and they're better able to be monitored and protected. The smaller forest elephants who exist in a very different environment, in deep forests remaining in Congo and Gabon and Central African Republic, Cameroon, these forest elephants, they live differently, they behave differently. Okay. They're frugivores, meaning they eat a lot of fruit, they disseminate a lot of seeds, they play a critical role in the ecosystems there, and they're incredibly vulnerable to international poaching.
All right, and more so than before, it sounds like. It looks, from what you've told me, poaching has increased dramatically in recent years.
That's right. There's an emerging affluence in China, and part of that affluence, as in the West, is reflected in a desire to participate in the consumer economies and buying trinkets, really non-functional artistic items carved out of, fashioned out of elephant ivory, are increasingly of interest to probably hundreds of thousands of upwardly mobile Chinese who may or may not fully understand the implications of their purchases. I know the Wildlife Conservation Society is working very hard. They're based at the Bronx Zoo, both in terms of on-the-ground anti-poaching efforts right in the range countries where these animals live in Africa. And they're also working in China to try and connect the dots. There's a lot of pieces to this, a lot of places where we can work on it. But my letter to the president was written because I couldn't get up from my desk after reading the recent reports where between 2002 and 2011, over 60% of forest elephants had been killed.
60% in just 9 years.
That's right. There's maybe 80,000 left of the forest elephants.
Across all of Africa?
Well, these animals only exist, again, in West and Central Africa. I don't have the figures on savanna elephants. And again, whether the forest elephant is a subspecies or a full species is less important than the fact that they're absolutely unique and special.
Right.
They're special to people who care about wildlife. They're special because of the unique role they play in the natural world where they live. Right now, they occupy less than, I think, 25% of the available habitat for them. And I mean, these are very emotional, intelligent creatures, and they know as one of the folks who's been working on this for years in Washington has said, they know there's a genocide going on.
The elephants themselves know.
That's right. That's right. These are intelligent, emotional creatures that mourn their dead. Yeah. I mean, these are social animals, and like wolves or lions.
I had an experience that confirms that for me. I mean, I'm convinced. When I was a kid, we went to a zoo. It was called the Stoneham Zoo, and this is before zoos became a little bit more inclined to provide the appropriate habitat and range of movement for animals. And this particular African elephant was chained, chained to the ground, and it just you could tell that it was biding its time. You could see and feel that it knew that it had no future. It had no life. I mean, it was horrible to watch. Even as a kid, I was horrified.
Right. Well, I think we can celebrate that standards of care for elephants and most other wild animals that are in captive environments have improved, and that's an ongoing process.
So let me take a second to throw out the phone number. Folks, if you'd like to join the conversation, it's 244-0077, 244-0077, 855-244-0077 if you'd like to call toll-free. And my email address is fallonforum@gmail.com. And Frank, if you're planning to call, please, there's no way, shape, and form I'm going to let you tie discussion about elephants to abortion. Okay, I want to ask you this, Peter. It seems like the problem child in this global conflict right now is China. Again, because of the upwardly mobile nature of the Chinese economy, you've got folks who have money, and apparently there's no government regulation relevant to the purchase and sale of ivory.
Well, there's an international convention, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Fauna and Flora, CITES, and there was just a conference of the parties in Thailand, and I believe that they tried very hard to make some meaningful changes in how international law applies to elephants and ivory, among other things. And within China, I think there's certainly been words spoken to suggest that the Chinese leaders are going to try to impact the consumption of ivory within China. But I think it's always the case. It's easier to point the fingers than it is to accept our own responsibility. And
what is our responsibility in this crisis?
I think our responsibility is to hold our own leaders accountable and ask them to lead, to ask our leaders to speak up. As I say, I'd like the president to use the word biodiversity in a major speech. And
has he not done that?
No. In fact, I think the word has barely been passed from his lips during his presidency. And in fact, if you go back and look how many presidents have ever used that word in an actual speech, it occurs in some official documents and proclamations, etc. But that's not the same thing. We need leaders to help us identify that this is a really important crisis, which is linked in with climate change, which is contributing to the biodiversity crisis. Years ago, since we tend to monetize everything, Robert Costanza, in a now really famous paper, tried to estimate the value in dollars of global ecosystem services. Mm-hmm. And it was something like $33 trillion per year.
33 trillion.
Per year.
Okay.
That's a lot of money. And of course, it's an imperfect figure, but
it's kind of sad that in order for us to value it, we have to reduce it to a monetary value.
Well, yeah, and that's something else which we can all do. We can be in touch with Senators Grassley and Harkin and our representatives, as well as the president and other leaders, to say that we would like more of our tax dollars to go directly to fund wildlife conservation. If we value the natural world, we value ecosystem services, we want to restore and protect what's left, and to do it both for our own self-interest and for ethical or moral reasons, then we need to put more money there. Poor people who live in the rural landscapes of the world where most endangered wildlife are still found, if they don't get a benefit, it's all, smoke and mirrors. It doesn't mean anything.
I mean, sure, the folks in these African countries are presumably dirt poor, and this is one way they can make a living. It's a horrible...
For the cost of one fighter jet here, far less, in fact, we could more than provide all the millions of dollars that Tanzania receives from big game hunters. Maybe $2 million directly for people who want to come and pay money to bring home a lion as a trophy, and another 72 or 3 million in lodge fees and local wages, et cetera. So say $75 million bucks. That funds a lot of the wildlife management and refuges in Tanzania. That's chump change. Doesn't even amount to buying one plane, sophisticated military plane in our country. Let's get real. $600 million for aid to our friend Israel. I'm not bringing that up except to say that that's $600 million, and think what a small fraction of that could do if it was applied directly to help with the wildlife management budgets and local people in these areas.
Now, there are some local efforts in these African countries to prevent poaching.
Absolutely, but
they're not adequate, apparently.
Well, no. I mean, when you're dealing with, it's important for people to understand there's a difference between subsistence poaching or hunting, where people are trying to simply feed their families,
right, and
the international trade in ivory, which is like international crime cartels with very sophisticated automatic weaponry. Okay. It's a whole different deal.
These aren't poor folks who are just trying to make a living. This is big business.
This is big business, and in fact, following the money and prosecuting the criminals is an important dimension of solving this. Both, all along the way, the range countries where the animals live, the transit countries, and then the countries or the nations where the ivory and other animal products are destined for. You need to follow it all along the way. We need to have the bully pulpit engaged by our president and other leaders to just keep this in front of people. I think most of us, if we think about what we value, I believe that most of us do value the natural world. We may not fully understand what it is we value about it because we haven't had an opportunity often.
Right. So it seems like the two primary tactics that might help increased presence in the countries where the remaining forest elephants live to basically make it impossible for poachers to continue to engage in the slaughter. I mean, with the herd down 62% in 9 years. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see where this is going. And it would seem to me that if we do care about this, helping somehow, again, as you indicated, resources and whatnot to help beef up the security on the ground where the poaching is occurring. And the other challenge seems to be to get the Chinese government to do more on its end to make it, it should be illegal, I would think, but to do a lot more than they're doing to crack down on ivory sale in China.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you need the whole range of actions need to be taken, and certainly critically important is reducing demand and ramping up anti-poaching patrols with adequate resources. That's something where the United States potentially could be very effective, I think, in helping countries like the Republic of Congo and Gabon and other countries to be able to muster the resources that they need to be effective in protecting these populations, which are dispersed in the remaining forest areas, so that, again, it's more difficult to protect them than it is to protect elephants in Amboseli in Kenya.
And perhaps it's easier for us to get enthusiastic about an animal as majestic and huge as an elephant, but we have major biodiversity issues right here in Iowa as well. There are creatures, shall we say, that are threatened. There are some that have already been driven to extinction. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, again, we all are leaders, and in each and every one of us need to take time to think about the meaning and the value of the natural world and biodiversity for us. The United States is the only major nation that has never ratified the Convention on Biodiversity Conservation, which is the only international treaty designed to it's dedicated to the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. It was signed, it was put up for signature in '92. Bush refused to sign it. Clinton signed it, but the Senate's never ratified it. Absolutely, prairie plants, prairie ecosystems, the Conner blue butterfly, prairie chickens. There are so many places where people can find their passion to engage their lives with biodiversity conservation. It's really important that we don't assume that someone else will take care of this. It's really our responsibility. We are all change agents. We can make a difference. We got to do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Peter.
And the zoo here, I'd like to say, has been a real leader in conservation of late. It's astonishing, actually, what they've done. There's a lecture a week from tonight. One of the world's leading scientists on predator conservation and biology, Amy Dickman, is going to be speaking at Blank Park Zoo. And
when is that?
That's a week from today, the 28th of March, and then on April 25th, I think the time starts at 6. The actual lecture starts at 7. But our own Blank Park Zoo has become an important leader, recognized, I will say, internationally for conservation work. Believe it or not, they're hosting a major international conservation conference in July.
Yeah, I've always I've never been a real fan of zoos, Peter, but I got to admit that as the pressure builds on animals across the globe, there's a place for a well-managed and humane zoo, and I'm glad to hear that Des Moines Zoo is in that category.
Right. Well, its footprint is not based on just what they have here in Des Moines. It's what they do out in the world.
Yeah.
And increasingly, small zoos like Blank Park Zoo can make a real difference.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for joining us, folks. Peter Clay, conservation advocate. We've been talking about the threat of extinction facing African forest elephants and the broader issue of biodiversity and why that's important and how it matters here in Iowa as well. I want to thank the Sierra Club and the Iowa chapter, excuse me, of Physicians for Social Responsibility. Yes, I have a sign is cold, don't you? Anyway, it's going away, I hope. Anyway, those two groups appreciate their support for this program. Also, I want to thank Gateway Market and Cafe. Gateway is where I get my medicine meaning food. Great stuff, folks. Gateway Market's food includes a lot of stuff from local farms. I've also got, cosmetics, a tremendous display of cheese, wines, botanical interest, heirloom seeds. And again, the cafe, a fantastic place for breakfast, lunch, and or supper. Yes, that is Baby Elephant Walk taking us out of our conversation here. We'll be back in a few minutes. Dan Kelly's going to join us. We're going to take a look at the Iowa State House. Interestingly, controlled by the Iowa GOP, whose, of course, logo is an elephant.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
The dawn of a new era begins.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of WebcastOneLive.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live, and thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together, and we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going, man.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Will you settle down over there, Dan? You gonna wreck our furniture? Dan Kelly's trashing the studio here.
I'm
Man,
just trying to adjust my microphone.
Call the security guards, please.
I just was trying to adjust the microphone. It wasn't cooperating.
Sounded like you were trying to break it to me.
No, this little thing needs some grease.
Well, you're a politician. Just rub up against it.
Here we go.
So speaking of grease, how are things at the State House?
Things are good today. To take it a little further, this is firefighter chili cook-off afternoon, and I just had
firefighter chili cook-off.
Yes, it's a big competition. All the fire stations from all over the state, they converge on the rotunda of the Capitol, and they
burn it down.
No, they cook chili, and they all have their own take on it. I just had about 4 or 5 bowls, and let me tell you something.
You had 4 or 5 bowls?
I did. Well, not complete full bowls, but it was, yes, I sampled. I was in sampling mode.
Okay, sampling mode. All right,
yeah,
good.
but they were in bowls and halfway filled. So,
okay, all right. So you really had about 2.5 bowls.
Well,
maybe.
Probably. Okay. But if the Newton Fire Station doesn't win that, it's rigged. Because they had fantastic chili.
Of course, you're not biased at all.
Well, no, I would lobby for them if it tasted like cardboard. But
so you're not biased or credible. That's what you're saying.
You interpret it how you'd like, but I think they ought to win. And and they had sausage in it and peppers, and they just really have great chili there. I'm going to start stopping by the station every now and again.
Did any fire station offer a vegetarian chili?
Oh, I'm sure there were some. But,
really? I'd be surprised, to be honest.
There were some cheese chilies, and I'm sure there were some vegetarian chilies.
So this is a way basically to raise awareness of issues facing volunteer fire departments, or is it not just volunteer, it's city fire departments as well?
Yes, city fire departments. That was basically the group, and it was just a nice, interesting time to get together with the local firefighters. My local fire chief was there and talk about some of the issues that are before the legislature that affect the local government and local firefighters. And
what are the issues the firefighters are interested in?
Well, there are some issues concerning their retirement that needs to have a close eye on. There's a bill that involves moving the Department of Homeland Security from one agency to another, and I'm going to take a closer look at that one because, as we learned with Hurricane Katrina, to get serious for just a moment, a lot of those decisions are made with the idea that we'll never be in a situation where we need to actually institute these decisions, and that's a mistake.
Oh yeah, you got to be prepared.
Yeah, right, and that was a real problem during Hurricane Katrina, and as to who has the authority to do what. Mm-hmm. Who has the authority? And that was part of the flyer that the fire chiefs were discussing, and I think that's something we got to keep our eye on.
What does the Iowa legislature have to do with preparedness when it comes to national natural disasters?
Well, not necessarily just. I mean, a state of emergency is really what we're looking at there, Ed. Okay. Whether it's a natural disaster or what have you. problems with a nuclear power plant, or so, any type of disaster, we need to make sure that we know the structure and what happens and who's in charge. And as we know, the governor is in charge of the National Guard in a state of emergency, and we just got to. There's a bill that addresses that.
I sleep better at night knowing Terry Branstad is in charge of the National Guard.
This is not a topic that gets a lot of interest, doesn't get a lot of media attention and so forth, but it is critical that we make sure we have that structure in place should we face a disaster. And hope and pray that we don't, but reality is things happen.
So the smaller issues, but really important to certain constituencies, firefighters, for example, the National Guard, and folks affected by a disaster.
Right, and it's important to firefighters because they're the ones taking the orders.
Yeah. So bigger picture, what are some of the, you're through the funnel week. You're probably doing a lot more floor debate. What's going on at the State House this week?
Well, Ed, I have had 2 very, very busy weeks up there at the Capitol, and I love the busy weeks, but 2 in a row has really been interesting.
Good thing we had St. Patrick's Day in between
I know.
for you.
St. Patrick's Day weekend
Broke
in
it
between.
Up a bit.
And the basketball tournament's coming.
That's right,
So, we're excited about that. But last week I was on the 4.5% fair flat tax proposal that the House Republicans put forward. Of course, I opposed that because it doesn't benefit the middle class, and those wanting to move into the middle class just benefits the higher income earners. So that was last week. This week, as ranking member of the Administration and Regulation Budget Subcommittee, I had a lot of responsibility. Yes, it is. It's a real mouthful. It's a committee that oversees 14 different departments, agencies, and offices.
That's a lot. That's got to be the budgets of the most departments under.
Well, it's $55 million, which is one of the smaller budgets, but it covers a lot of area. And frankly, if it doesn't fit into another budget bill, it comes to ours. So anyway, that was on the floor for debate last night. Although I hope that eventually, once the bill comes back from the Senate, we see a budget that I can support and that my caucus members can support. We didn't see it last night. There are some concerns that we have within that budget that if we just take some simple steps and provide additional funding to 2 different departments, we can really further ensure good, clean, open, transparent government in Iowa. And those 2 areas are the the Campaign Ethics and Disclosure Board, and also the new Iowa Public Information Board, which is set to open its doors on July 1st. We want the governor actually proposed somewhere around $450,000 in funding for this new board, which has the potential to really provide a valuable service to citizens in terms of dealing with their local governments and having access to public information that comes out of local government. The House Republicans proposed $100,000, and we want to see more than just an employee in an office and a computer. We want to see this board really take off, fulfill its promise, and be properly and adequately funded in its opening year here. So we did fight for some additional funding there. Hopefully we'll see that when the bill comes back from the Senate. With the Campaign Ethics and Disclosure Board, they do fantastic work there. But they have a tremendous workload when
they've got a limited budget and more and more money in politics. It's harder for them to manage all that.
Exactly, more and more money in politics. We've got. I think in Iowa we have very good laws concerning campaign disclosure, so that you know who's giving money to who and where that money is being spent. I think we have.
I think
good
the system
laws.
of tracking could be better.
I think there are areas for improvement. I'm gonna say that. When I say good, I don't say great.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at. But here's the issue. They are behind on auditing these reports, and it is not their fault. They just don't have.
And again, auditing campaign reports filed by candidates.
Filed by not only candidates, but also PACs and the political committees on the local level. Say your county Democratic and Republican
or state,
parties and statewide. They've got a lot of work to do. And in my opinion, they're not funded to the point where they should be.
Yeah.
And so those are two reasons that
Isn't that partly by design? I mean, legislators really don't want tremendous oversight of where their money's coming from.
Yeah, well, and that's not right. And
would you agree with that analysis?
I agree with that, yes, but that's not right, and that's something that I'm fighting to change. And my fellow caucus members on that committee are fighting the good fight too.
I love a fighting Irishman, and we've got one right here in the studio with us, Dan Kelly. Very good. So I know you're not in the Senate. I know you don't have a state university in your district, but are you paying are you able to take a look at what's going on over there with the confirmation discussions regarding 2 Board of Regents members?
I have kept up on it somewhat, although I don't have a Regent University in my district. I am a graduate of the University of Iowa and care very much about what happens with that institution, as well as I'll root for the Cyclones from time to time. So
well, you're kind of in the middle. You're kind of between Cyclone and Hawkeye country. Where do you go?
I'll tell you, I put him in my Sweet 16 for the tournament, just hoping for the excitement and the great time that will be.
Right.
So I have softened on my Hawkeye Cyclone sort of thing.
Okay.
Anyway, back on the subject.
Waffled, we're going to call it.
No, it's genuine softening. I like to see them win unless they're playing the Hawkeyes. Now, 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been true.
Okay. But to the Board of Regents.
But to the Board of Regents. Yes, I've been paying attention to that. I have faith that it's all going to work out the way it should.
Well, I mean, the way it should work out, in my opinion, these guys don't deserve confirmation. They do not deserve to be reappointed.
Yep.
I mean, that's my opinion. It looks like there's a bunch of Democrats, at least, who agree.
Not being a senator, I don't have a vote on that, but that's what I'm hoping happens.
But it only takes 17 votes, and they will be off the board.
Yeah,
and that doesn't happen too often.
No,
that's a rare occurrence. But I think the public have been appalled enough at what's happened with the board, how they've tried to basically influence the university's decision-making process, and what they do specifically with the Harkin Institute. I mean, that was blatantly trying to exclude the probability of research that would have been conflicting to some of the priorities that the big ag interests like to see come through the university.
Yeah, and it's didn't the Harkins make the decision that would go to Drake now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they're very frustrated about that, and it never should have happened. And this may be the backlash that activity on behalf on the part of the Board of Regents has gendered. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well. Yeah, good for Drake for catching it.
Well, there's that too. Yeah,
because that's a great school too, and root for them on occasion too.
So, what do you got? Another month or so before you're done?
I judge it. It's all based on college basketball at this point.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. We've got about 6 weeks left.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
All right.
And hopefully 6 weeks. I'm hoping we don't go into an extended session. Starting to hear some rumblings that may be the case, but I don't know. I've said it before. This session just seems like it's going much smoother than the previous 2 I've been involved in.
Mm-hmm. What are you hearing in terms of politics specifically? For example, Bruce Braley going to have an opponent in his efforts to secure the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate seat?
I don't know.
No talk about that yet?
It'd
be surprising to have him waltz in with no opponent, but again, he's in a strong position, and I could understand why opponents would, decide to not give it a shot.
Yeah, I have nothing but absolute respect for Congressman Braley, and I'm waiting to kind of see where things fall and see who may have an interest in that. But when the time comes to make a decision, I'm going to choose the candidate that I think is right for the state of Iowa. And if Braley is the guy, he's going to be a great senator.
Yeah. So, well, and there's still talk of Steve King running on the Republican side.
Yeah, well,
which is a little bit
we're going to have to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, I mean, the truth is, if he did run, wouldn't that be a good thing for Braley?
I just don't know, Ed. I
mean, he's so extreme. It looks like he'd have a hard.
I think any possibility of a Senator King is maybe something we need to hope does not occur. So
yeah, you're right. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But again, thanks for the continued updates.
Yeah.
Appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, sure. And I wanted to say about Congressman Braley too. I know he's a very strong supporter of wind energy, which is important to my district, and I'm hoping down the road to have a real substantive discussion with him about wind energy and what it means to Jasper County.
Well, we had Rob Hawk on the show Monday, and good news to hear that the wind energy tax credits has been extended.
Yes.
That's good news for Newton and for wind and for Iowa.
It is, but we need to take a look at extending it even further because wind holds a lot of promise, and we're just at the beginning of what we can get from hydro, solar, and wind, and so forth.
Dan Kelly, folks. Dan, thanks so much for joining us, as you always do on Thursday. You just keep coming back for more and more abuse.
Yeah, I love spending time with you, Ed, and I love being on the show and visiting with your listeners.
Well, they enjoy hearing from you, too.
Thank you, Ed.
All right. Folks, Community CPA, the sponsor of this segment of our show. I don't know whether Dan has his taxes done yet.
Not yet.
Not yet? All right, we'll get on it.
Working on it.
Well, if you need help, Community CPA and Associates does a fantastic job. They're at 3816 Ingersoll Ave. The number to call, 288-3188, 288-3188. That's Community CPA and Associates. When we come back, Nikisha Phillips is with us, as she always is on Thursday. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Frontline documentary, Climate of Doubt. It talks about how the climate deniers, through a lot of financial backing from the Koch brothers and other oil-related interests, have done a bang-up job at twisting and redirecting the debate on climate change. And we're going to take a little look at that when we come back as well. It's disturbing, but it warrants we need to be paying attention, and we need to be thinking about what we can do to respond to that misinformation.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Community CPA is the 15th largest CPA firm in Iowa, providing audit, tax, and accounting services. Community CPA specializes in international tax treaty and double taxation avoidance among countries and states. 9 dedicated, experienced, hardworking staff are the company's foundation, and their compassion towards every client is the secret behind Community CPA's success. At Community CPA, you can expect quality service year-round. Call 288-3188. Community CPA, 3816 Ingersoll. Experience the difference.
This is Dr. Holding of the Story County Veterinary Clinic. For 15 years, we have been spaying and neutering feral cat groups at affordable prices. Wild cats destroy game birds and songbirds. A single female cat can produce over 4,000 kittens in 7 years. The shelters are full, so unwanted kittens will be put to sleep. Your cats will stay home and stay healthy. Call us for all your dog and cat needs at the Story County Veterinary Clinic between Ames and Nevada on Highway 30, 1 mile east of Interstate 35. 515-232-8766.
Since 1994, Sid's Catering has graced Des Moines area events with quality service and rave reviews. Owner Sid Cohn's culinary career began with a Northeast Iowa vacation home for international clientele. Sid earned a Bachelor of Science in Hotel Restaurant Management and was the assistant clubhouse manager at Des Moines Golf and Country Club. Sid has a passion for fresh, local products and offers a wide range of options, including vegan, gluten-free, and ethnic. Mention the Fallon Forum when you book your breakfast or lunch event and get 10% off. Contact Sid's Catering at 208-2091. That's Sid's Catering at 208-2091.
Local farms, global flavor. That's the secret to Hawk's growing popularity. The best meals begin with the best ingredients, and 90% of Hawk's ingredients come from local farms. In addition to seasonal fruits and vegetables, Hawk features grass-fed beef and lamb, and pasture-raised chicken and duck, all raised without hormones, steroids, or cages. The coffee is fair trade, locally roasted, and Hawk's House liquors come from right here in Iowa. Hawk's owners go the extra mile, composting organic waste and recycling. For more information or to make reservations, visit hawktable.com. That's HOQ table.com.
It's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
I love driving to Newton to see the
Me
races.
too, but I only have to drive across town.
You live in Newton?
Yep, Newton's got small town charm and it's close to Des Moines. I love the safe, friendly neighborhoods and family-owned businesses. And Newton's wind energy industry is really taking off.
How'd you find your home?
Dan Kelly with First Choice Realty. And Dan helped me find my office too.
Next time, instead of just speeding by, I'll stop in and check out Newton.
Why don't you check out Newton? Call Dan Kelly at 641-521-9260 or Dan Kelly at mchsi.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm not the guy who cared about love. I'm not the guy who cared about fortunes and such. Never cared much.
Welcome back, folks. That's Max Wellman, and we're back to our conversation. In a few minutes, we're going to talk with Nikisha Phillips, Des Moines' most famous pregnant mother, at least for another 3 months. But I gotta share a little bit of information about a frontline video, a frontline documentary called Climate of Doubt. This was sent to me by an old Peace March friend, Chris Ball, who lives in Ohio, works with the Cleveland Plain dealer. And I watched it last night as I was making chicken soup, and it was powerful. And I want to go through just a few highlights and talk briefly about each one, and then move on with our conversation from there. This is just something to get you thinking about how big of a challenge this climate change issue is.
Warming isn't, in fact, accelerating. In fact, there's been none for 15 years.
There's Chris. Okay, warming is not accelerating. There's been none for 15 years. I mean, you have to be shameless about tweaking the facts in order to come up with that kind of a statement. I mean, the last decade was the warmest on record, not just in the 140 or so years of record keeping done by NASA and the NOAA, but in 800,000 or 11,000 years of records based on temperature analysis. I mean, you can't say that without lacking credibility. But again, you clothe it with you're selective about what you choose to say, how you say it, and you can pretend that you've somehow presented fact.
For years, the number of Americans who agree global warming is man-made has dropped to about half.
We should get these books, I think.
I agree. It's a message that is inspiring a new generation of skeptics.
I would like to really listen to these scientists who came and talk and have dedicated their lives to debunking this fallacy, so to speak.
So, yeah, it wasn't that long ago that more Americans understood that climate change was an issue. They understood that mankind, our human activity was contributing to global warming. And now, due to this phenomenal propaganda machine, even, folks who really, I'm not saying people who are buying the Kool-Aid are dumb. I'm just saying the arguments are presented in such a way, so pervasively, that they are winning converts.
Tell me that there hasn't been any perceptible trend. You essentially get no warming trend. In the last 10 years, there hasn't been a warming. We don't know why that is, but one doesn't see any warming in the observations. There's no trend.
Got my money. This guy, Singer, by the way, a professional skeptic and contrarian. He's always contrary. He was critical of efforts to label smoking as hazardous, critical of efforts to bring attention to the problem of the ozone layer. It's just what he does for a living. He's a contrarian, all right? And again, what he's saying is factually unsupportable, and yet he says it. He's got a loud platform because of the financing behind him, which we'll talk about in a bit.
So the 2000s was the warmest decade on record. The 1990s was the warmest decade before that. The 1980s before that, and most of us in the field of climate science expect, but we can't be sure, we expect that the 2010s will be warmer than the 2000s.
Against the backdrop of all the pressure from skeptic groups, Congress ordered a comprehensive review of climate change research by the National Academy of Sciences. The findings came back even stronger on human-caused climate change, and a subsequent study showed 97% of active climate scientists agreed.
What's settled here on climate change?
Virtually every place on Earth is warming up, and people who've tried to go back and scrub the data, like is there a mistake with the way they're making these measurements, they've all concluded that no, the people who are doing this work at the key places around the world are agreeing with each other.
Okay, so there's a better presentation of reality and the truth. Again, you can always take an isolated incident. Okay, you can look at this month, for example. March. Whoa, it's cold out there. You know, nobody is more ready for spring than me. But if I put it in perspective, last March, the warmest March on record. This March, one of the 24 coldest Marches in 140 years. Well, there's a 1 in 6 chance of that happening. So again, if you want to be selective, pick out, cherry pick something to try to make your point. You can do that. But as the evidence just shows, every single decade warmer than the last. The evidence is emphatic.
Carolina State Representative Bill Cook.
Who do you rely on?
I rely on whatever science makes good sense.
You want to show me?
Sure.
So this here is one of the sources.
Yes, this is a book by Fred Singer and Dennis T. Avery.
Right. And what about this book really was meaningful to you?
Well, it's very factual. It tells all the studies and gives you a complete bibliography on who did what kind of study and where it was done and when it was done and how it was done. This book made better sense to me than what I've seen from other sources. CO2 is a gas that is used by all these beautiful trees, grass.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. And this guy is clueless, and he's in the North Carolina State Legislature. It's just kind of embarrassing that one can turn off a portion of one's mind and be able to only look at the data you want to see and ignore the stuff that really provides the bigger picture. Again, 97% of scientists, 97, 98%, and there's a handful that want to be contrarians because it's fun, exciting, it gets you some good grant money from the oil industry. But North Carolina, actually, they're really trying to deny this even through legislation.
Necessarily listen to any one person, and I can't, tick off a whole list of scientists that are pro sea level rise and a whole list of scientists that aren't. I'm just coming at it from a common sense standpoint. The Earth has been warming and cooling since day one, and the effect on sea level change. What do we know about it?
Okay, fact. The Earth has been warming and cooling since day one. Yes, fact. Very, very, very gradually. The natural cycles are so slow as, from a human lifespan's point of view, to be imperceptible. What we see now, the warming that's occurred in the past decade, in the past 40, 50, 60 years, it is off the charts. It is absolutely associated with human activity. I wish the North Carolina legislature would wake up on this.
David Cook's the chairman of our AFP Foundation. We're glad to have his support. We don't disclose the level of contribution, but we're very proud to have their support. Americans for Prosperity. We're blessed with just such a leader and our chairman, David Cook.
With money from their oil and gas holdings, David Koch and his brother Charles, along with other powerful family foundations, have quietly become the venture capitalists of this free market ideology.
So that's where the financing of this comes from. Yes, we're going to, you can be sure that it's credible science when the money funding it comes from an industry that would be adversely affected if we actually started doing the right thing. Of course, David and Charles Koch are more concerned about their massive nest egg than they are about truth or about actually doing something to address the problem. They've got the bucks, they can fund the organizations that do the pseudo research, and they have the networks needed to get that message out. And it has gotten out, and it has unfortunately had a huge impact.
just an economic issue or an environmental concern. This is a national security crisis.
The national call to action from just 4 years ago has vanished.
Global warming demand our urgent attention.
Well, I think the risks of climate change are real, and that you're seeing climate change. I think human activity is contributing to it.
We don't always see eye to eye, do we, Newt?
No, but we do agree our country must take action to address climate change.
Why would you ever do a commercial with Nancy Pelosi?
That was really stupid.
Do you believe global warming, man-made global warming is real?
I believe we don't know.
We don't know what's causing climate change.
There is no such thing as global warming.
The science is not settled on this.
Even for President Obama, action on climate change has been only a passing reference in a close election campaign.
Climate change won't make it stop. These things won't make for a brighter future.
That issue is...
Well, yeah. You see the change, folks. 2007, 2008, even Gingrich, even Romney, John McCain, saying, yeah, climate change caused by humanity, need to do something. They've shifted. You know, the one lesson from this is with enough money and focus, you can actually, change public opinion. Unfortunately, it's being changed for evil. It's being changed in the wrong direction. And it's up to us to turn up the heat, so to speak, to change it in the other direction. And one way to do that is with the Great Climate March, the Great March for Climate Action. Go to the Facebook page we've put up. Great March for Climate Action. Like it, and let's keep in touch, and let's keep moving forward on that front. We're going to switch gears, and I'm going to play some music here that I find very appealing because I think it's one of the more creative uses of baby laughter that I've ever heard. Nakisha Phillips, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Ed.
Are you depressed because of what I just showed you on climate change?
Yeah, what the hell, man?
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
You have enough to dealing with the pregnancy to have me throw that stuff at you.
No, it's fine. It was actually, it's kind of on spot for how I'm feeling today. I just, it's like sometimes you just wish you were ignorant and had no desire to educate yourself.
Well, the North Carolina legislature is waiting for you to run.
Well, have you ever been to?
I have. I like the place actually, but
it's beautiful, but.
So what are you going through this week?
Oh, just trying to educate. Let's just put it this way: I'll be glad when I can pick up a thick Russian novel again and read some fiction. Or
why can't you do that now?
Well, because I just am trying to inform myself and Jess about everything that
Jess is your husband.
Yes, everything that we're supposed to be expecting.
So you're on a rapid bell curve here to learn as much as you can about being pregnant and what happens when the delivery occurs.
And right now we're kind of looking into vaccinations and then somebody brought up the other day about what kind of education, and I was like, oh, and then so it's like Waldorf versus Montessori versus it's
well, and that you have a little bit of time to think about that.
But it's one of those things where I think I've just kind of stressed myself out where sometimes I wish I was just
ignorant.
Ignorant is bliss.
Well,
kind of thing, Yeah. Where I just feel like, oh, okay, yeah, that's great. Sounds great,
Well, it's enough to deal with the physical transformation of going through pregnancy,
which nobody is ever honest about. I've learned.
Really?
No.
What is
don't ever listen to anyone when they say, "Oh, it's beautiful in its own way," but at the same time, you can't see your feet, you can't see other parts of your body that you used to be able to see. You can't bend over, you can't tie your own shoes. It's just
yeah.
It's one of those days, Ed. I just blame it on the weather too, I guess.
The weather is not helping at all.
No.
Yeah, we could use a warm spring day right about now.
I think so.
Yeah. So what about the vaccination issue? That's when you've got pretty heated opinions on both sides.
Oh yeah, and it's really it's really hard to kind of figure out what's the best way for you, or what's the best thing for you, the best thing for your baby, and also the best to protect other children, because if you don't vaccinate your children, then you run the risk of, contaminating or, it's a lot of stuff to take in. And
so where are you settling on that question? Because it's one that a lot of parents do wrestle with quite a bit.
Well, I think, I don't think we're against vaccinations. I think we just would like to put them off as long as possible and spread out as long as possible. Do you know that kids don't even get chicken pox anymore?
No.
I had no idea.
I did not know that. Why not?
Because there's a vaccination for it. I had no idea. I thought it's kind of like a rites of passage.
Yeah, chicken pox is not that big a deal. I mean, it sucks to the kid who has it at the time and the parent who's taking care of that kid, but doesn't it prevent you from getting something more serious later in life?
I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on when you actually get them. I know that for males, you run the risk of sterilization if you get it older, but
Chickenpox also leads to shingles later in life.
That's what I was thinking. Shingles,
so it doesn't protect; it leads to it. So preventing
chickenpox
pox is actually a good thing. Yep, if you've had chickenpox when you were a child, you're more likely to get shingles as an older adult.
Oh, well, thank you. Out of the wise mouths of producers. Thank you.
I see. Right. I didn't know that, but I don't know.
Well, we could have quite a conversation about vaccinations. I know that, again, the feelings are really hot and heavy on both sides of that.
Yeah.
But I know something else we've disagreed about is strollers.
Yes.
I mean, I kind of like the stroller. You're like rabidly anti-stroller.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that you sent me this video that helped make your case really, really well.
Check it out.
This is somewhere on a train ramp. This is a mother with a stroller on top of the screen. I don't quite know where this is. Do you, Nikisha?
No.
But it's horrifying, actually.
Yeah.
It ends well, so do not be alarmed, folks. Well, be alarmed, yes, but...
I mean, granted, we don't have...
Oh, my. That's so not good. And this is even worse.
Boom.
And the baby survived that.
Yeah.
Unscathed.
Just a couple bumps and bruises, but...
Wow.
Not that we have a lot of, subways or trams here in Des Moines.
We don't have a lot of subways in Des Moines. We have one down by the...
We just have, a couple.
By the park, yeah, okay.
But, I don't know. I just, no, I don't want a stroller.
All right, well, that's very anecdotal. I thought it was interesting that you chose to send that to me, but I'll send you some videos with happy parents pushing strollers through parks. But
okay.
Again, yeah.
And I don't judge people. I want to say that I don't judge people for the kind of things that they want to buy, for their own child. And I know that, for my sisters, it's convenient because, my sisters, if they're going to the mall or something, it's convenient for them, or, they have multiple children. I can see that aspect and I get it, but just, it's not my bag. So.
Well, for your sake and everyone else's, Nikisha, I hope we get a warm spring day really, really soon.
Thanks.
And I hope you get to read a trashy Russian novel.
I can't wait to read some.
And maybe you could admire your feet in a mirror. How about that? Even if you can't see your feet looking straight down like you used to.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I can see them is if I'm supposed to prop them up above my heart, so the swelling goes down.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Ed.
Nikisha Phillips, folks. I want to thank you for sticking around for the conversation today, and we'll be back tomorrow with more talk here on the Fallon Forum.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I am administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.